Every guitar player needs to work on their timing. It's one of those fundamental skills that you've just got to have. It's something that I work on continually in my playing, and I think you should too. So today we're going to spend some time working on our timing. We're going to cover 3 ways to count to 4. And we're going to do this by taking a look at a real bluesy lick so that you can see that this counting stuff, really has some serious blues application. So you can tell we're playing this at a pretty slow tempo. My metronome is set at 66 beats per minute, and that's intentional because you tend to lose the beat a little bit when playing at a slow tempo. And so if we can really strengthen our ability to stay in time at a slow tempo, it's just going to help you all the more so when you speed things up. So let's talk about the 3 ways that you can count to 4 before we start breaking down this lick. The first is super easy. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. And everything is evenly spaced, and you're basically taking a measure in time and dividing it into 4 equal parts. And those are quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything's nice and even. We can take those quarter notes and divide them in half, and we get eighth notes. And you would count that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then finally, you can take that and divide the eighth notes again into 16th notes. So now you've got 16 notes in a single measure. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a is how you would count that. And it's very important that everything is nice and evenly spaced. We're not talking about swing time. We're not talking about shuffle. We're not talking about triplets. Any of that stuff, that's for later. We want to focus on the main ways to divide a quarter note, or a whole measure rather. Divide it into 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4. Divide it into eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Divide it into 16th notes, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. And that's all we need rhythmically to play this example that I've got for you today. The first part of this piece is just a single quarter beat. So we're going to pluck this A7. I'm playing this finger style, and my A7 is here around the 5th fret. And we're going to give that a single quarter beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And where I choked out the strings, that's where we're moving into the other part of the lick. For our second beat, we're still going to work within 1 quarter note's amount of musical time. But we're going to play 2 16th notes followed by an eighth note. Now if you do the math, you've still got a quarter note. 2 16ths equals 1/8. 1/8 plus another 1/8 equals a quarter, 1/4. So what we're going to do is play this with a pair of 16th notes. We're going to play the E on the 2nd string and hammer up to the F sharp on the 7th fret of the 2nd string. So 5th to the 7th. That would be 2E. For the and of 2, we're going to start our 8th note, and we're going to hold it out. So if you were to count this with strict 16th notes, you would count 1E and but you're holding this over the and so that it's still an 8th note. Hope that makes sense, because you've got 2 notes followed by 1 note held out to equal this second phrase. Now let's move on and check out the third beat. 1, 2, E and 3 and. Now you may have noticed when I played this lick earlier that we put a little bit of articulation on that first note, that head note, that C note here, by hammering into it. So we're really starting from this 7th fret, and on beat 3 we're hammering into that C note. I don't want that to confuse you, but this little articulation shows up a lot in the blues. If it messes with your sense of timing, work it in later. This will be something to kind of reach toward, a little nuance in the timing that'll help you sound a little more vocal, a little more bluesy sounding. But if it messes with you at all, leave it out and just go straight to the C like I just did here. But feel free to work that little hammer on in. Little tip, you barely hear the B. You're really just hammering into this note on the 8th fret. But let's move on to the 4th beat where we wrap this up. Now this one can seem a little bit tricky. So we've ended here, and we're going to go back to our A, and we're going to use the 16th note subdivision. We're not playing all 4 of these 16th notes for this beat though. Instead, what we're going to do is hold out the A note for the 4E and on the so that last 16th note, we're going to reach up and hit the 8th note. The 8th fret of the 2nd string there as we move down for beat 1 to this little mini D7 chord. All right, so the 4th beat is 4E and 4E and then to finish it up, because you need this to kind of bookend your timing, fret this little mini D7 chord shape. We've got the open D7, the 5th fret on the 3rd string for that nice flat 7 note in relation to the D7 chord, and then we've got our F sharp there, the major 3rd. So it's really cool, just 3 notes to that. It's a cool way to kind of lead ourselves into this D7. So what we've got is so there you go, 3 different ways to count to 4. We've got our quarter notes, our 8th notes, and our 16th notes, and we put them all to work in that little example. Be sure to practice this along with the metronome and tap your foot along to the clicks of the metronome. That's the best way that I know how to help you develop a good sense of timing. Be sure to come on back next week as we take this and build it out into a full 12-bar acoustic solo fingerstyle thing. You're gonna dig it, I know it. So hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Give me a thumbs up if you dig this, and come on back next Tuesday for another cool acoustic blues lesson. Until then, practice smart and play on.